Hi guys, today I'm going to be giving a talk on self-hosting your own website or service from your own home. Uh, so there's a lot of steps you might not be familiar with, so I'm going to be going through all of them. Yes, first things first, why would you want to host from your own home? Well, it's a good learning experience, learning how different networking things work, learning some different things about hosting that you might not know if you just host on a different server, such as the NetSock server, which you can get for free. Yeah, and if you are just going for things that you want to be stored locally, it's probably the most privacy-focused way of keeping things hosted is to have them right next to you. So those are the main reasons. Like probably in most cases you would prefer to host elsewhere, but if you want the learning experience or the extra privacy, then it's a good idea. So let's say you're hosting something. I'll give a quick tutorial on how to host something later on. When you're hosting something on your Raspberry Pi computer and you're trying to connect it to your laptop. You put in the IP of your Raspberry Pi, and when you type it in, you get the nice website that you love. So you send your friend the link to your IP address. So he tries to connect to it using his favorite browser. And upon connecting, he has a terrible error. Site cannot be reached. Took too long to respond. So he has a bad experience. So then you remember, wait, this is my local IP address, as you can see from the 192.168. So you send him your full IP address, whatever that might be, but you still get the same error. That's because your browser has something called a NAT. What this does is it converts the IP address of your entire home to the specific device that you have. The reason you have this is because IP addresses are in short supply these days. There's a maximum of around 4 billion IP addresses, but a lot more devices. So if you don't need an IP address for every smart light bulb in your home, you're probably better off not having an IP address for them, as you can just use a local IP address. What this means, though, is that if somebody's trying to connect to your IP address, you need to tell the router, hey, this IP address means that you have to connect to this device, which I'll show you how to do later. So first, how about we host a quick basic website? I'm going to open up the terminal, and we're going to install Nginx and create a simple basic website. What we'll do is we sudo apt install Nginx, and it's installed. I already had it installed, so maybe your message might be different. And by default, there's a configuration that if you put something in this folder, /var/www/html cd, that anything here will be hosted from the Raspberry Pi. So this is hosted on a port called 80. This is just a simple HTTP port. For example, if we want to change this, we just change it to something else, such as index.html. So sudo vim index.html, and we put in whatever website information we love. I'm sure we already gave a nice talk about HTML, so if you want to learn more about that, well, I refer you to that talk. Link on the eye icon if you're watching on YouTube. So now, if we try to type in the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. It's 192.168.178.156 on mine. Get an error. Actually, yeah, I know why. 192.168.178.192 or 156, and we get our lovely website that we just saw. But if you try to type in the IP address that I'm on, see what is my IP. You type that in, and we just get an error. Could not connect. So that's the problem. Somebody else wants to connect to your website and they can't. Or maybe it's just you and you're somewhere else and you can't connect to it. So for this, we need to do port forwarding. To do the port forwarding, it does depend a lot on what device you have as your router. Oh. Port forwarding. So I'm going to go through the instructions on my specific router, but if you have your own router, you can find the instructions on portforward.com/router.htm. So I know that for my router, the address is 192.168.178.1, and enter in the password, which is usually on the router box. Sometimes you can just guess it, such as it being admin or something else. I do recommend you change this, but first time you have to use whatever is on the router anyway. So we log in, go into settings, internet permit access, and here we find the device that we wanted to add. So I'm going to add a device. I'm going to add my Raspberry Pi. We have too many things here. Raspberry Pi. Permit. And I'm going to add new sharing. We want a HTTP server, and we want it through 8080. Now if you click OK, it will start working, and we'll be able to access it from the IP address. However, so if you put in your IP address.com as the numbers up here, then you'll be able to access the website from anywhere. However, most people, when they're trying to connect to a website, you don't want to access it via typing in 4 numbers that you may or may not remember, and it's not particularly easy to share. So usually you want to add a domain to it, such as ilovenetsock.com or something else. So I'm also going to show you how to set up a domain for your own self-hosted website. So first we get a domain from somewhere. You can get this for free from somewhere like .tk, a bit of a convoluted name to say. Or you can also go to Namecheap if you want a less dodgy sounding domain. .tk domains are pretty good because you can get them for free, but it also means that scammers and such often use them as well, because they can get them for free. So next we would want to set up the DNS so that when you type in the domain at the top of your search bar, that you get the name of your server. And for this, you have to check the DNS settings. So that's going to redirect whoever is trying to access your website up to the IP address that it's supposed to be on. So for this, you can use the one that's included with the domain provider, such as if you buy it from .tk, you can set it up there, or you can get it up from Namecheap. They also have a DNS. But I recommend using the Cloudflare DNS. The main reason for this is it's usually a bit more secure against DDoS protection and stuff like that. And it also has extra privacy features so that you can obfuscate your personal IP address. So I'm just going to set this up now. So go to namecheap.com. Find a domain that you want, and then purchase it if it's available. I already purchased this domain, so I will continue on to the next step. I'm sure you all know how to purchase things online these days. Next, I'm going to set up an account on Cloudflare. Gonna log in using my account. And I'm gonna add a site, poggers.art. We choose the free plan because that's good enough for most of our needs. You can continue on. And for this step, we'll need our IP address. So my IP, gonna copy paste it. So I'm gonna delete these. I'm gonna add a record. So at and use my IP address. And also add www. Add, save. And then we can continue. And now we go back to Namecheap. Go to our domain list. Manage our domain. And we change the name service from the Namecheap basic DNS to the Cloudflare DNS. Copy and paste. And press the check mark to save it. And usually that updates pretty quickly. So yeah, so that's the main steps that you need to take. However, if you just send it as is, you may not get it to work exactly as you want it. I think by default Nginx should work, but sometimes you might want to have subdomains and such to have differentiating to differentiate your different websites. Maybe have poggers.art is your favorite website. Maybe another website is iloveminecraft.com or something else. So for these cases, we're going to need to modify the Nginx configuration. Luckily, that's not too difficult. So I'm gonna find the Nginx. And we'll go into cd/etica and Nginx, and we're gonna vim sudo vim /sites sudo vim sites available and default. So we have the default configuration, but we don't need this anymore. So instead, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to remove it from the sites available, from the enabled websites default. Sudo and sudo in sites available and hoggers.art. Alright, let me set that up quickly. So we want to put server and listen to the port 80, because that's a normal website port, and server name is hoggers.art. Now we want to set the root to be /etica /var/www/html, and for location we just type in this, as we don't need anything inside it. It's just showing that we're serving on the root location. I'm just gonna check that the Cloudflare stuff is finished. Not yet. I guess we can also add the asterisk here so that anything else by default also goes here. So now we want to link the Nginx configuration into our enabled Nginx. So if we ls sites available, we see there's a lot of things I have set up. It goes sites enabled, and there's nothing there. So sudo ln/etica nginx sites available and hoggers.art. We want that in etica nginx sites enabled. Yeah. Usually you should make it a soft link. So yeah, run this command instead with the -s. Now we need to restart Nginx. Systemctl restart Nginx. That didn't work for some reason. Okay. So I'm just gonna remove this. I'm gonna add the correct domain. Yeah. And that would work, I believe. Yeah, so that restarted without any errors. Now if we were to go to poggers.art, it's probably not gonna be updated yet, and that's okay, but it should be updated soon. Sometimes it takes longer than other times. But you get the idea anyway. You set up the file and that's what you use to host it. And you get a nice http://domain. However, one issue is that, so yeah, it should work once it's finished updating. But to make the website safer, what you want to do is you want to add a encryption key. So that's the TSL key, so you can, so that the traffic between you and the server is always encrypted. This stops anyone from sending you false information between the time the data leaves the server and it reaches your laptop or computer. This is particularly important if you're on any dodgy networks, such as free Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or something. So if you want to set this up, what we do is we have to install Certbot. This is a free way of adding an SSL certificate. If you want to do this, we do have to also open the port for the SSL certificate to work. So we will have to go back to our our router and add another port. So we go to our Raspberry Pi, we add some new sharing, and this time we want HTTPS server. So we add port 40 to 40, the protocol is TCP, and we enable sharing, and that's okay, and we save it. Next, we have to go back into our Raspberry Pi, and we install Certbot. So we copy paste that. So sudo snap install core sudo snap refresh core sudo snap install /classic Certbot. Should install in a second now. And sudo and then -s snap in Certbot. Switch user in Certbot. And now if we sudo certbot /nginx, we would like to activate HTTPS for poggers.art. This may or may not work depending on if it's updated yet. But once that works, it should automatically update the Nginx file with a bunch of information about the cert. And now whenever you visit the domain poggers.art, it should be a nice NetSoc fan page, as shown here. So here we have poggers.art. And yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Does anyone have any questions? I guess probably not. Thanks everyone for coming.